Hi everybody. My name is Marina Diez. I go here to UBC. I've been here for about 5 or 6 years. I'm a full-time student at FIU, and I work full-time for the Miami Heat as well, which is funny because I saw Arlene there a few weeks ago, one of the last games. But this is really exciting. Rajni asked me to share a little bit about my story. Well, I guess it starts when I was born. So I was born in Argentina. We moved to the United States because of church. My parents grew up Catholic and weren't really religious, or they were, but not really practicing.
Yeah.
And then my dad, through the bank and through his company, they moved into California. And my dad said, well, I'm not going to church unless the guy who invites us is down the street. And he was down the street, so they went to church, and that's kind of, so I grew up in a really amazing Christian family, in a really great home. I have a little brother who's 13, and life was pretty much perfect. I don't remember there ever being much hardships. Everyone was always healthy, always happy. I started playing tennis when I was 2. I started taking lessons when I was 4, and by the age of 12, 13, I was on the pre-Olympic tennis team for Argentina, and that was always the plan. There was always the goal, and people saw me at church and people saw me in school, and it was always the athlete, and I was a tennis girl. That was my identity. And that's really all I was the tennis girl, the tennis girl, the tennis girl. And I had all these hopes and all these dreams and all these plans from a young age. And then my whole life changed from one day to the next pretty much. It was December 16th, I won't ever forget. I was eating Chinese food, which I'm sure is unhealthy, and we'll learn about that. But I was eating Chinese food, sitting on the couch, and I was like, oh, my chest hurts. And I told my grandma, and she said, well, you probably just have heartburn. You shouldn't be eating that. And we let it pass. And I woke up that same morning at 4 in the morning, and I couldn't breathe at all. And I remember crawling to my mom's room and waking her up, and I'm like, I can't breathe. 3 weeks later, 9 surgeries later, on New Year's, they told me that, the doctor came in and he's like, well, you have Hodgkin's. And I was like, okay, cool, what is that? And he's like, well, you have cancer. And I was like, oh, okay. So what now? And everything kind of stopped. Your whole world just stops, and you're like, well, for me, at that age, I was 15, and I thought, I'm never going to go to prom, I'm never going to have a boyfriend, get married, have kids. And I looked at my brother, and I thought, well, I'm never even going to see him grow up. And I think that was the hardest part. He came to me and he sat on my bed. He was really silly, like he would make me move over, and he wanted to pick the movies. He was awesome. He made me not feel sick. But he sat next to me and he looked at me and he was like, Marina, are you gonna die? And I just remember not having an answer for him. I had no idea if I would or if I wouldn't. And I just said, I don't know, Max, but I promise I'm gonna try my hardest not to. And he's like, well, at least you're going to be a bald kid on the commercial. And I was like, maybe I'll be on TV. He had a really great attitude, and that's how we approached the whole cancer thing, with a really great attitude. And everyone, we played, hi, that's one of the little girls that I mentor, sorry. We played video games, and we colored, and we watched Disney movies together. We had wheelchair races in the hospital. We tried to make it as fun as possible throughout the process. I remember going into the first chemo being really nervous, knowing that it was coming. And I remember a few days before, they let me go home, just to kind of mentally, I think, prepare myself. I went home, and I remember sitting in my room and just started crying, and I kneeled on the floor, and I thought, I don't know anything but to pray. And I got on my knees and I prayed to God, and I remember connecting. That was the first time I really connected with Jesus, and I understood where he was coming from. When he was praying in the Garden of Eden, he said, I don't want to, I really don't want to. I know that you can take it away, but I will if that's your plan. And I prayed that same prayer, and at the end I felt like this. If you don't believe me, that's fine. But I felt like this hug and this warmth and this peace. And all of a sudden I was like, no, I do have cancer. This is real life. I have to do it. Let's go. And the process after that, there's no movie that describes it. There's no person that can explain it. I can't even explain it, as many of you, I'm sure, know what it's really like. And for me, it was throwing up all the time and not being able to maintain food. And my body was really sore. So as much as I wanted my mom to hug me, she would hug me, and it really hurt. Everyone was really careful around me, and some people had to wear masks, and I couldn't leave my house, and I couldn't stand in the shower. I think that was one of the hardest things, was not being able to take a shower. Like, I had to sit. And then one night at dinner, this was the worst part. One night at dinner, we're all just trying to have fun, like I said, have a good attitude. And I did one of these really girly, like, oh, my hair. And all of it fell out. And that was the first time that I ever saw that much hair in my hands. And I just remember looking down and not saying a word for like 30 minutes. I got up, I went to my room, I closed the door, and I just asked my parents to leave me alone for a little bit. And I read the Bible, and I just thought, okay, well, let's just have fun. So I watched G.I. Jane and V for Vendetta like 7 times the next day. And I buzzed my hair, and then a little bit after that, it started falling out. To the point where my brother could draw, like wherever he would touch my head, those would fall out, so he would draw like stars and hearts and stuff like that, until there was nowhere else to draw. And every chemo was a little bit different, and every one was harder. I think your body adapts, and then the chemo finds a new way to destroy you. But about a year after all the kind of the pain and the suffering and so on, they said, you're cancer free and you're good to go. And that was 6 years ago in 2 days. So that's really exciting. But at least for me, it's been something that never really went away. Yes, I'm healthy, but it never goes away. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't remember it or think of it or meet someone or smell something or see something that reminds me of that experience. And in the same time where I used to have a lot of nightmares where I would wake up and I was bald, or I would wake up like sweating and have panic attacks, and every time I would have to go in for the hospital, I didn't sleep the day before, and I would throw up, and there was something wrong with me. I just was so scared. But I think through Christ and through time, in meeting people who are so healthy, or people that are still sick and have that good attitude, and are praising Jesus through it and are living their lives healthy and making that decision, I'm not scared anymore, and I love remembering it. It's something I meet people, and cancer doesn't scare me anymore. I don't think of cancer normally. Like some people cling, some people cry the second they find out that I was sick. But I'm really proud of it, and I'm proud of the people who have it, who had it, and people who may have it, because it's something that I think changes our life forever. Nothing is ever the same. After you've met someone, you've lost someone, you've gone through it. And as much as cancer stinks, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I think that I'm a different person today. My whole family's different. Everyone I ever meet or get to touch or get to talk to, I think cancer has such a big impact on all of our lives. And the daily decisions that we make to keep ourselves healthy or not is huge. I changed the whole way that I ate while I was in the hospital. They told me all organic, and the only thing I ate, which I'll confess to, was pizza, because it didn't taste bad. Everything else tasted like metal. Which was weird, but pizza was good. But and I still eat healthy today, so I think what we're learning today is really, really special and really important. But I'm just really grateful that you guys let me share my story with you, and I'm happy to see so many people supporting one another and our lives and our healthy journey and our spiritual. It's like a spiritual, mental, physical thing. It's one big component. And we can all beat cancer together, and whether people survive or not, I think we beat it in our hearts and we don't let it scare us. And that's how we win. That's how cancer never ever wins, if we live our lives daily as if it never happened, if it happened, and we're better, because it can't win if we beat it mentally, right? So thank you so much, and praise God.